And welcome back to Flipped Mishnah. We are looking at Masechet Brachot, Perek Vav. We're going to be looking at the entire Perek today, and you'll follow with the questions that are in your handouts. The first Mishnah and all of these Mishnah deal with the Brachot, Bracha Rishona. Most of the Mishnah are going to talk about Bracha Rishona, and then we're going to talk about Bracha Achrona. It's a mitzvah de oraita to make a bracha after, to do a bracha achrona. We learn it from the pasuk ve'achalta ve'savata uverachta. And there's a mitzvah de rabbanan to make a bracha before, and we learned that, the rabbis learned that from logic, that we make a bracha before. The Chachamim say that it's asur to benefit from anything in this world before thanking Hashem for creating it. And that's why we make a bracha before. We'll see the different types of brachot, which you're all familiar with, and also the special uniqueness of bread and of wine. First Mishnah starts, Keitzad mevarchim al haperot. How do you make a bracha on perot? On fruits, the different types of fruits. So al perot ha'ilan, on fruit that come from a tree, hu omer bore pri ha'etz. We say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, the same formulation for all of the brachot. Borei pri ha'etz. Chutz min hayayin, but wine, which also comes from trees, which is from grapes. She'al hayayin hu omer borei pri hagafen. On wine we make borei pri hagafen. Ve'al perot ha'aretz, and on fruits that come from the ground, hu omer borei pri ha'adama. He says borei pri ha'adama. Chutz min apat, but bread, which also comes from the ground, because wheat comes from the ground, we say different. She'al apat hu omer hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. We say hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Ve'al yerakot, and on vegetables, hu omer borei pri adama. And on vegetables, meaning fruit that came from the ground, we say borei pri ha'adama. Rabbi Yehuda omer borei minei deshaim. He says different. He says, we say borei minei deshaim for that bracha. Next, Mishnah 2. Berach al perot ha'ilan borei pri adama yatsa. So now, what if we make a mistake? What if I make a mistake and I said one bracha and I really were supposed to say a different bracha? So we're going to here learn a concept which we're going to discuss more in class called lichatchila and b'di'avad. So lichatchila means the best way to do something, and b'di'avad means that even though you didn't do the best thing, this is a second resort. So the Mishnah says, Berach al perot, if you said a bracha on fruits of the tree ha'ilan, borei pri adama, so yatsa, you're still yotze, you're still fulfilled the obligation of the bracha by saying borei pri adama, if you did it again by mistake, if it was a second resort. Obviously it's not the best. Ve'al perot ha'aretz, and on fruit of the ground, vegetables from the ground, borei pri ha'etz lo yatsa. But if you said borei pri ha'etz on a vegetable that comes from the ground, you're not yotze. Al kulam im amar shakol niye bidvaro yatsa. But for all of them, if you said shakol niye bidvaro, then you are actually yotze. The next Mishnah we're going to discuss. We discussed the bracha of shehakol. So we're going to see different categories of food that fit into this, and some foods that don't even have a bracha. Al davar she'en gidulo min haaretz, on something that is not grown from the ground, omer shehakol, we say shehakol. Al hachometz, on vinegar, ve'al hanovlot, and on unripe fruits, ve'al govai, omar shehakol, and on locusts, delicious, we say shehakol. Ala chalav, ala gvina, ala beitzim, omrim shehakol. On milk, on cheese, and on eggs, we say shehakol. Rabbi Yehuda omer kol shu min klala, ein marvarchim alav. Anything that is a type of food that is cursed, we do not say a bracha at all. Next Mishnah. Mishnah 4. Hayu lefanav minim harbe. Let's say you had a lot of different foods that have the same bracha. Rabbi Yehuda omer im yesh b'nei mimin shiva mebrech alav. Question is, which bracha do you make first? And do you have to say a bracha for all of them? So if all of the foods have the same bracha, you only make the bracha on one of them, and that counts for all of them. But again, which is the one that comes first? So Rabbi Yehuda says, if any of the foods that are in front of you are from one of the 7 species, from 7 foods that come, special foods from Eretz Yisrael, which comes from the pasuk Eretz Chita Useora V'Gefen V'Teina V'Rimon, Eretz Zeit Shemen Udvash. Any from those that we see in the picture over here, Eretz Chita, Seora, Gefen, Te'ena, Rimon, Zeit, Shemen, Dvash. So all of those, any of those, that bracha will come first. Chachamim omrim, mevarech al ezim hem shesev. According to Chachamim, you say whichever one you want. Now, there are this Mishnah 5, talks about that there are different parts to the meal. There's the part before Hamotzi, there's during the meal, after Hamotzi, and after the meal, which is after the meal but before benching, where we see different categories of brachot. So the person says, Berech al hayayin shelifnei hamazon. Let's say you had wine before the meal, before you made Hamotzi, and you had wine. Say your borei preagafen. Patar et hayayin shelachar mazon. So after you make Hamotzi and you start your meal, and you have more wine, you don't have to make another bracha borei preagafen. Berech ala parperet shelifnei hamazon. Let's say you had some kind of appetizer before the meal. Patar ta parperet shelachar ha-mazon. That is going to be yote, the parperet, the appetizers that come during the meal. Berech ala pat, let's say you made hamotzi on bread. Patar ha-parperet, so you don't have to make a bracha for the food that's going to come after, specifically the parperet, which is the appetizers that would come during the meal. Al ha-parperet, lo patar ha-pat. But if you make a bracha on the parperet, that's not going to exempt you from saying a bracha on the bread. Beit Shammai omrim af lo ma'aseh kedera. He says, it doesn't even poter something that is cooked in the pot, and we'll discuss that in class. Now, what if you're eating with a group of people? So there's a concept that someone could make a bracha and fulfill the obligation for everyone else who's sitting at the table. So when people used to sit, or like on Pesach, like we just had, there'll be misubim, they'll also be reclining. So you can be sitting or you can be reclining. So the Mishnah starts, Hayu yoshvim lechol, a group of people were eating together, sitting and eating. Kol echad ve'echad mevarech le'atzmo. Each one says a bracha on his own for his own food. Hesebu. What if they were sitting together, they were reclining together? So chad mevarech lekulam, one person can be yote all of them together. Ba lahem yain betoch hamazon. Let's say wine came during the meal. Kol echad ve'echad mevarech le'atzmo. Each one says a bracha for himself. Lachar hamazon, but if it came after the food, chad mevarech lekulam, everyone says the bracha. One person can say the bracha on behalf of everybody. Now, at the end of the meal, one of the customs was they used to bring some kind of spices to mugmar, spices to smell. The hu omer ala mugmar, and a person will say a bracha on the mugmar. Af al pi shein mevi'im et mugmar el lachar seudah, even though they only brought it after the seudah. This Mishnah number 7, is going to talk about food that is a concept called ikar and tafel. So ikar is something that we have that is the main food, and tafel is the secondary food. And when we're eating two foods together, that one is the primary food and one is the secondary food, we only have to make a bracha on the primary food. So the example that's given is the following. Heviu lefanam meliach betchila upat imo. Let's say you brought some salty food and bread with it. Now, if you have salty food and that's your main food, and the bread is something to remove the saltiness a little bit, or the sharpness, for example, so mevarech ala meliach upoter et apat. So you say a bracha on the salty food and not on the bread. She'apat tfeila lo, because the bread is secondary to it. Ze'aklal. This is the general rule. Kol shehu ikar ve'imo tfeila. Everything that is the main food, and with it you have something at tafel that is secondary. Mevarech al ha'ikar upoter et atfeila. We have the bracha is made on the main thing, and the secondary one, the bracha is already taken care of. Last Mishnah of the Perek, of Perek Vav, talks about bracha achrona. So the Mishnah says, Achal te'enim v'anavim v'rimonim. A person ate grapes, ate figs, grapes, or pomegranates. Mivarech achareihem shalosh brachot. You say the full Birkat HaMazon after it, Divrei Rabban Gamliel, that is the words of Rabban Gamliel. V'chachamim omrim, but the Chachamim say, Achat mein shalosh. We say an abridged version, a shortened version. That's what we know as alamichya and so on. Rabbi Kiva Omer, afilu achal, even if a person ate shelek, a boiled vegetable, vehu mizono, and that's his sustenance, his main food. Mevarech acharav shalosh brachot. He says the full Birkat HaMazon. Hashoteh mayim litzamo. If you drink water in order to satiate your thirst. Omer shakol niye bidvaro. You say shakol niye bidvaro. Rabbi Tarfon Omer borei nefashot rabot. He says that we say the after bracha of borei nefashot rabot. Please answer the questions that are in your package, and we'll further discuss these in a deeper way together.